Every generation inherits a machine. Some become forgotten, others become legends. But every once in a while, a machine escapes its purpose. It becomes an idea, a stereotype, a dream.
It's raining, and the Duke has been the most controversial motorcycle in Indian history. Not because it was the slowest, not because it was the cheapest, but because somewhere along the way, people stopped talking about the motorcycle and started talking about the riders, the orange ones.
Just like a coin, every story has two sides. To understand the Duke's story, we first have to understand the India that came before it.
कहाँ
बैंड्रा।
अरे मैं भी वहीं जा रहा था बैठो
77 किलोमीटर प्रति लीटर पूरा फायदा उठाइए
दादर।
अरे
Motorcycles weren't bought to chase corners. They were bought to reach work, carry groceries, and save fuel. Performance wasn't really expected. Reliability and practicality was.
Back then, if you wanted performance, you either had to get an imported superbike or you just had to live with your splendor.
Then came an Austrian brand with wildly different ideas. KTM didn't want to satisfy the uncles. They wanted to satisfy the nosier bunch, the teenagers. Even though for today's standards the design is dated. But for 2012, the design was from the future. Sharp edges, liquid cooled engine, exposed frame, all these things made it a very good looking bike.
It wasn't superbike fast, but for thousands of Indians, it was the fastest thing that ever owned.
The Duke didn't just change motorcycles, it changed expectations. And that is where our story really begins. Every revolution begins with a simple idea. For KTM, that idea was simple. Performance shouldn't be exclusive. But before the Duke, motorcycles like this belonged in magazines. Suddenly, they were parked outside engineering colleges.
Ever since its release, the Duke has always remained aggressive, it has always remained modern, and dare I say, intimidating.
Owning a performance motorcycle was no longer a fantasy. It became a realistic first bike for thousands of young riders. Light, sharp, responsive, the Duke made ordinary roads feel like entertaining. Every traffic signal became the start of another story. And the second you twist the throttle,
KTM had made performance affordable, and that's where the Orange Company might have made a mistake. Because in India, they started to be associated with these. Because attention rewards excitement, and social media loves attention. The bike hadn't changed, just the perspective had.
somewhere along the way the Duke became an identity. Identities are judged way more harshly than machines. Here's the irony.
If you ask anyone who has never ridden a Duke what they think about it, chances are they'll tell you about the person, not the bike. Because once you ride it, the stereotype totally disappears and the engineering starts speaking. Today, journalists judge motorcycles on how they corner, how they brake. But 10 years ago, that wasn't the part of the conversation. Duke made it the part of the conversation. In 2012, KTM partnered with Bajaj to enter India. But by that time, Bajaj had already been trying for 12 years. KTM. But it was hard even for them to fathom the amount of success that KTM's achieved in India over the next few years. Most bikes are measured in horsepower. But the Duke, I'd measure it in influence. Maybe that's the real story of the Duke. Not what the bike itself is, but what it inspired. I'm your host, Arul Kulkarni. You're watching Motorpost. Hope you had a blast. crazy. I was shooting this Duke 250 today, but the thing is, this guy has come wearing orange. Bro, do you have any reason for that?
Yeah, because this black color misses a lot of orange. So I have to wear orange, bro. I didn't have an option.
The things you gotta do for content, bro. Things you gotta do for content.